I do want to talk about two big brands, HIV, of course, and MTV versus each other, and how media can save lives and how these two brands have actually had a huge impact on each other. So I'm going to start with since it's a TED Talk, I'm going to start with a proposal that may seem a little controversial to many of you. And that is, very simply, that television can actually save more lives than medicine. Now, I didn't make that proposal up. It was actually Dr. Peter Piot, who was the first head of UNAIDS, who told me that. I didn't believe it. I was very skeptical. But that is my proposal, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why that is possible. So, the power of TV, it is powerful, and I recognize that at a very, very early stage. Now, let's go back, and let me tell a little story. We go back to 1998. The epidemic was in full force, and that year, in 1998, we had 6 million newly infected HIV. Huge number, unstoppable, and panic was setting in everywhere. 2 million people live in Vienna. So each and every person in Vienna times 3, that's how many people were infected with HIV in 1998. So we knew that something had to be done. Now, the other part about this, as we soon learned, is that over 50% of new infections were young people. And what made that so particularly tragic is that it was really sucking the wind out of our future. It was really taking the wind out of our society, if you will. And the fact that young people were impacted so much by this, but were not given a voice, actually gave us a lot of puzzlement at MTV. So, sorry. Where's it? Okay, here we go. Actually, we go too far. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So in 1998, I found myself, I was the chairman and chief executive officer of MTV Networks International. And that was like a wow factor. But I found that with that position, that gave me some unique power. Very rarely in life do you have this sort of power. So I knew something had to be done, and I knew something had to be done fast. So I was able to aggregate world leaders and celebrities. And what really gave this extra juice was the fact that I had worked so hard at MTV on the business side that our distribution was reaching hundreds of millions of people, and obviously mostly young people. And not only was the distribution everywhere, but it was also, there we go, connecting in a very deep way. Now, we don't like to take ourselves too seriously, obviously. You can see by Beavis and Butthead, and I'm here to say I brought Beavis and Butthead to the world. My apologies. In addition to that, Jackass and you know, other illustrious programming like Jersey Shore. We didn't just bring Jackass. We didn't just bring Jackass, by the way. We decided to be on the cutting edge of technology, so we brought Jackass 3D. And, you know, again, not to be taken real seriously, but we found that we had a strong connection, primarily because of the music we played, but we also had this, this powerful connection through some of our not-so-serious programming. So with that, the understanding of youth culture, the connection, and the distribution, we knew we were in a pretty good position to deliver some messages to young people. So that was really the genesis back in '98, even though we had some messages on the air, but that was really the genesis of, and the first steps, if you will, of forming what later became the largest HIV awareness campaign in the world. And what my intent was to unleash the power, if you will, the power of MTV, and put those 3 letters MTV right next to the 3 letters of HIV. And some people, even in my own company, thought that was very risky because here you have MTV lifting the spirit, and then you have this devastating epidemic of HIV. I thought the risk was worth it. And I'm here to say that if we don't take risks like that, then we can't really make a difference. So we launched Staying Alive. What is Staying Alive? It's really about staying alive. And it consists of two parts. First was the campaign on all the channels around the world, reaching literally hundreds of millions of people. And then also, later, it became a foundation where we would fight the epidemic at the grassroots level. So because we had connections to celebrities, our old friend George Michael there, we enlisted their help. So George Michael was one of the first back in 1998. And again, we took another risk. Instead of playing music videos or showing Beavis and Butthead, we decided to do documentaries at the very start. So one of the first was called Me, Myself, and HIV. And again, this was giving young people a voice. So this was 6 people and 3 couples. This is a couple that Angelina and Slim was his name, one from Zambia, one from the US, and they were both HIV positive. So we gave them a platform to talk about what their life was like, what it was like to live with stigma that Regan's talked about, Conchita's talked about also, and how powerful that force was. And they had a platform to talk to our audience all around the world. So we also were able to get world leaders. President Clinton, he was eager to step forward, and he was on the air several times talking again to members of our audience about the epidemic. We had Nelson Mandela. Not only did he launch MTV Africa for us, but he also talked to audience members around the world about the impact of the epidemic. And then we started doing very hard-hitting ads because we realized that soon, with all the numbers being published, that the eyes were glazing over. So we wanted to be creative. And we used animation, we used humor even, even humor, believe it or not. The idea was just to think out of the box and just get their attention, get the attention of all the young people that we could to focus on what our messages were. So we had, we were fined in the UK, not with this ad, but we were fined because we had very explicit condom instructions, how to wear a condom. In prime time, why not? I thought it was worth the risk, but we were fined. This is more of a humorous take on wearing a condom with the hands. We had a series of figures that were like the Muppets, if you will, and here they're talking about moving, actually taking off body parts, private body parts. So some of it was very edgy, but again, the idea was to get the attention and to deliver messages. That one doesn't, okay, there, whoops. We took clothes off people. We took naked bodies, and we showed how it was possible to have fun with 2 naked bodies rubbing against each other with no sex. Go figure. But all these ads were designed, again, to break through the clutter. Okay, and then we came up a little bit later with a series called Suga. Suga in Swahili means sugar daddy. And our first series of Suga was in Kenya, and we used all local cast members, local producers, local directors, everything. And Suga is not a documentary. It's not people telling life stories. It's actually a scripted drama. And you want to watch this show because, well, first of all, a lot of it's about sex. So you definitely want to watch it, and how relationships form and how sex enters into the relationships. But it also very subtly brings in key messages, not only on prevention, but also in anti-stigma. And whatever the messages we thought were important at the time, everything from testing, wearing condoms, again, the power of stigma and why we have to fight that. And Suga, interestingly, we're on our 4th series now. We did one in Kenya, one in Tanzania, recently completed one in Nigeria, and we're about ready to start South Africa. And interesting on that one is that you may recognize her. That's Lupita Nyong'o, and she got her start on Suga in Kenya. So she's gone on to be a big star, of course. We're very, very proud of her, and in many ways, we made her a celebrity, and now she's making us somewhat of a celebrity. I never have a presentation unless I sneak a picture of the family. So that's me and the kids and Lupita in Berlin. And here we go. And that's her movie, which won the best movie of the year in the Academy Awards earlier this year. Regan also had this picture of the virus. The thing about the virus is that, yeah, it is beautiful in a way, in a very strange, wicked way. But it's there, and it's part of our bodies, and it's 100% preventable. And I know that's a controversial statement as well. But it's not only treatable, but it's completely preventable. And what we discovered about our campaign is that we were reaching literally hundreds of millions of people, but often the impact wasn't what we thought it could be. And it was a little bit like talking to a crowd, a huge crowd, but only the front few rows could hear you, and the people in the back really couldn't hear you. So what did we do about that? We call it the last mile, if you will. How do you reach kids who may not even have a TV or electricity or even indoor toilets in some rural areas that we wanted to get these messages to? So we thought about this for a while, and the solution was staring us right in the face, which was we start a foundation, which is this is the second part of Staying Alive, and this foundation would employ young people around the world to fight the epidemic at the grassroots level. So let me talk a little bit about that. Okay, we all know, if you're a teenager, there's probably a few of you there, or if you're parents of a teenager, we know that teenagers don't like to listen and be told what to do, particularly by adults, and especially if adults talk to them about sex. So we knew we had a problem right away with that, but in addition to having the campaign on the air for young people, we decided also for the foundation to make it all about young people. So everybody that we gave grants to were young. And so it was like peers talking to peers. And we concluded, obviously, that no one can talk to young people like other young people. They respond in a much greater way, and you can relate in a much bigger and more important way. So in summary, we put the campaign together, which is the left, together with the, I call them heroes, really. They're grantees. And there's over 400 of them now. They're in 70 different countries. And you put them together, and you come up with a truly global effort to fight the AIDS epidemic. So we've invested in these young leaders in a big, big way. And we've done it all around the world. Here is a testing clinic. They're learning about testing. And we wanted to give them the skills, the knowledge, and most importantly, the confidence to go out there and fight this epidemic at the grassroots level. Whoops, sorry. We have training sessions. This one happens to be in Kathmandu. And here we're teaching, we have a training session as I speak in Kathmandu. We have them all around the world, but by coincidence, this one was a couple years ago, and we have one now. And what do we do here? We talk about education. We give them finance tools so they can run their respective operations like a P&L. We teach them fundraising tactics and marketing, and really teach them to be what they are, which are future leaders and heroes in fighting the epidemic. So like I did on the network side, which is go local, that's a local show in the UK, but there's many, many examples. And my mantra was respect and reflect local cultures. Not one product, not one burger, not one cola, but change the product depending on where you are around the world. That strategy worked very well from a business point of view, so we really use the same strategy for our foundation, employing, finding, and awarding grants to local people, local young people. So again, using the language, local language, not English, not Esperanto or whatever, using the local language because that's the most effective. This is a grant that was just awarded, actually, in a prison outside Nairobi, just to the north of Nairobi. And this is a group, again, of young leaders going into the prison and teaching HIV awareness and the importance of getting tested to not only the prisoners, but also the officers who are running the prison. And this is in Moldova, where they have lots of different routes for migrant workers. We wanted to go to where the transport hubs were to give out condoms and to explain to the people who were part of this hub how important it was to prevent the transmission and also to fight stigma. So that's our footprint, global, again over 400, and we increase by about 100 every year. So what are we after? What's the long-term vision? Well, there's 1 billion young people, and the idea is to mobilize an army, mobilize a truly passionate, effective army that fights this disease at the grassroots level that complements the effort on air. Now, it should be mentioned, and I'm sure you know this just by reading the newspaper, that there's tremendous progress. Even last week there was a big announcement in the U.S. about how effective treatment has become, even treatment as prevention. But we're not taking too much notice of that because our focus is on prevention. And whatever the numbers are, 36 million living with HIV, roughly 10 million or a little bit less have access to treatment. So there still is a tremendous gap that we want to focus on. And people are getting newly infected every day, and until there's a cure, even though you can still live now, obviously, healthy, long lives with HIV, we want to stop HIV before it hits a person. Now, just a quick word on stigma. Nelson Mandela taught us that stigma and discrimination can actually be worse than the disease itself. And so we've spent a lot of time trying to fight for the disenfranchised, the people that have had to hide. We have seen that the more discrimination and the more stigma results, we don't want to get tested because of the risk of the stigma. So we spent a lot of time, not only with role models and celebrities on the channel, but more importantly, with people like the people who are most vulnerable, talk about why there's no reason for stigma, there's no excuse for it, and there's definitely no time for it. So, change is now, and I'm just going to end by saying that, yes, media can be powerful, like you all. It can be powerful. It can change behavior. It can educate. It can inform. It can fight stigma. And it can save lives. So with that, that's it. Thank you.